The chamber of the Galactic Council floated above a storm-filled world, its marble walls glowing with soft blue light. The sound of distant thunder rolled through the clouds below, but inside the hall, there was silence, heavy, watchful silence. Ambassador Virel of the Joran Empire stood at the center, his scaled hands trembling as he activated the holo display. Blue light shimmered, forming the image of a small planet, Earth. Around him, representatives from 100 worlds watched with mild amusement. To them, this was just another of Virel's warnings. My fellow council members, Virel began, his voice rough with age and fear. We must speak of the humans. Soft murmurs filled the chamber. The word humans was unfamiliar to many, irrelevant to most. A tall, feathered being from the neural system leaned back in his chair. Ah yes, the primitives, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Still fighting each other over soil and sky. Virel ignored the mockery. You laugh, he said, but I have seen what they can become. He pressed a button, and the holo display changed. Images of ancient Earth wars appeared. Explosions lit the dark, smoke-covered cities, and human soldiers marched through ruins with iron faces. They fight, Virel said, not for territory, not even for power, but for belief. They would destroy their own world before surrendering their pride. A deep, mechanical voice rumbled from the far end of the table. It belonged to High Chancellor Trevok of the Dominion, his silver armor reflecting the hololight. And yet, Trevok said slowly, they still live in mud and metal boxes. Their ships crawl, their weapons are crude. Why should the Council fear them? Virel looked up, eyes wide. Because they learn, he whispered. Because every time they fall, they rise stronger. And because they are no longer bound to their home. The room fell quiet for a moment. Virel expanded the projection, now showing faint signals, transmissions from deep space, human probes and early starships pushing beyond their solar system. They are reaching outward, he continued. And when they arrive among the stars, they will not come as beggars or explorers. His voice dropped. They will come as survivors. A ripple of laughter moved through the council. Survivors, one delegate scoffed. They are insects compared to us. Their world is unstable, their population barely unified. What can such creatures do against the might of the Dominion, or the fleets of the Arak combine? But Virel did not back down. He raised his head, and for the first time, his trembling stopped. You do not understand humans. They don't need fleets. They don't need empires. They only need a reason. He turned off the holo display and stepped forward into the light. His voice carried across the hall like a whisper that refused to die. When the stars call to them, they will come. And when they come, it will already be too late to stop them. The council chamber erupted in noise, laughter, jeers, mocking applause. Even the Chancellor chuckled, shaking his head. Ambassador, your imagination could power 1,000 worlds, he said. The council has greater concerns than fairy tales of violent apes. The meeting dissolved into casual chatter. Reports of trade routes, border disputes, and taxation filled the air as Virel stood alone at the center, his warning ignored once again. Slowly, he deactivated his terminal and looked out the vast window. Beyond the clouds, the stars shimmered faintly, beautiful and distant. Somewhere among them was that small blue planet. He remembered the message he had intercepted years ago, before the council erased the data. A simple phrase, repeated over and over by a human satellite, "We are coming." Far away, in a different part of the galaxy, a ship drifted silently beyond the orbit of Neptune. It was black as night, its surface absorbing all light, its engines whisper quiet. Inside, a crew of humans worked in silence. The captain, Commander Elena Cross, reviewed the final transmission logs. Her voice was calm but steady, the kind of calm that comes only from those who have already faced death and learned to master it. Status report, she said. All systems green. Quantum drive charging. Target coordinates locked. Good, she replied. Send the message. The Border Patrol ship fraction drifted along the edge of Council space, a lonely dot among endless stars. For the crew of the Thalnok Empire, it was supposed to be a quiet assignment. Just another night of checking cargo ships and listening to the hum of the engines. Captain Rethvarin, a broad-scaled alien with golden eyes, stared at the stars through the viewing glass. I hate this sector, he muttered. Too empty. Too quiet. His second officer, a younger Thalnok named Syrah, laughed softly. Captain, nothing happens out here. Even pirates avoid this void. You should enjoy the silence. But the captain didn't smile. His instincts, honed by years of service, told him silence wasn't always peace. Sometimes, silence meant something was watching. An alert suddenly blinked on the console. A strange signal appeared on their scanners, faint but steady, coming from deep space. Syrah frowned. Unidentified transmission detected. Source unknown. It's not coded in any council language. Reth leaned closer. Play it. A low hum filled the bridge, followed by a voice, distorted but calm. This is the Terran exploration vessel Dawnfire. You are entering restricted space. Alter course immediately. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Terran? Syrah whispered. I've never heard that word before. Reth frowned. He remembered something, a report from years ago, buried in council archives. A forgotten world. A primitive species. Humans. He straightened up. Run a cross-check. See if that word appears anywhere in the database. Syrah's hands flew over the console. Found it, sir. Terran. Origin. Planet Earth. Classification. Pre-warp species. Council record marked non-threat. The captain's eyes narrowed. Pre-warp? Then how in the void are they transmitting from out here? They sent a reply transmission. Unidentified vessel, this is Captain Reth Varen of the Thalnok Empire, acting under council authority. Identify yourself or prepare to be boarded. Silence. No response. Minutes passed. Then, the lights on the bridge flickered. Every monitor flashed static for half a second. Syrah turned pale. Captain, sensors just went blind. I'm losing data. A cold voice cut through the static again. Final warning. Leave this area. The bridge fell silent. Outside, space seemed to shimmer, as if light itself bent around something. Then they saw it. A massive black shape emerged from the void, smooth and silent, no visible engines, no markings. Just a dark outline against the stars, the human ship Dawnfire. The Thalnok crew stared in disbelief. That thing has no drive signature, Syrah whispered. How is it moving? The captain clenched his jaw. Target it. Prepare to fire a warning shot. The moment their weapons charged, their targeting systems went dead. All lights on the bridge turned red. Sirens screamed. EMP surge, yelled Syrah. They shut down everything. Before she could finish, a single beam of light sliced through the void, striking their port engine. No explosion, just silence, then darkness. Every console shut off. The ship drifted powerless. Outside, the Dawnfire glided past them, its hull gleaming faintly in the starlight. For a brief moment, the crew saw figures through the glass, human figures, wearing black suits, faces hidden behind helmets. They didn't fire again. They didn't speak. They simply passed by, like ghosts. Then, in an instant, they vanished into hyperspace, gone without a trace. The Thalnok ship drifted for hours before emergency power returned. When Captain Reth finally restored communications, he sent a distress message to the nearest council station. His voice shook slightly, though he tried to sound calm. Unknown vessel encountered. Advanced technology. Possibly human origin. We were disabled in seconds. Requesting immediate investigation. But the response he received chilled him to the core. Captain Reth, human presence in that region is impossible. Your report has been logged as a sensor malfunction. Return to base for system recalibration. Reth slammed his fist against the console. They're calling us liars, he growled. They didn't even read the data. Syrah looked at him quietly. Captain, maybe they don't want to believe it. Meanwhile, far across the void, the Dawnfire reappeared near a dead moon. Inside its dark command deck, Commander Elena Cross stood before a group of officers. Contact with alien patrol confirmed, she said. No fatalities. Ship disabled for data collection. Her science officer nodded. We have their entire network codes now, Commander. Their systems are primitive. We can track all Council communications. Elena stared at the data screen. It showed hundreds of star systems, fleets, and political factions. So this is the galaxy, she murmured. So loud, so proud, and so blind. She turned toward her crew. They think we're explorers. Let's not correct them yet. One officer hesitated. What if they respond with force? Elena smiled faintly. Then we'll teach them why humanity survived a death world. Her gaze hardened as she looked at the stars ahead. Project Dawnfire continues. Prepare the next phase. Back in the Council capital, Ambassador Varel received a secret message on his private console. It was unsigned. Just a few simple words. Your warning was correct. They are here. Varel's blood ran cold. He looked out over the storm clouds below and whispered, "Then the first world will fall, soon." Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the sky as the old ambassador closed his eyes. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's greatest powers had no idea what was coming. And somewhere out there, the humans were already watching. News of the strange encounter reached the Galactic Council within 3 standard days. But by the time the report arrived, it had already been edited, trimmed, and labeled as low priority. Inside the Grand Chamber, the delegates sat in their shining seats, staring at the holographic image of Captain Rethvarin, the Thalnok officer who had faced the humans. His scales were dull, his uniform torn. The transmission flickered slightly. He spoke with urgency. It was no pirate vessel. It disabled our systems with a single pulse. No known empire has that kind of control. It called itself Terran. I believe it was human. A low chuckle ran through the chamber. High Chancellor Trevok leaned forward, his metallic fingers tapping the desk. Captain, are you suggesting that a primitive species from a backwater world managed to outmatch a Thalnok battleship? Reth tried to stay calm. With respect, Chancellor, I saw it myself. The technology was beyond anything we've. Trevok cut him off, smiling coldly. Perhaps your crew panicked. A sensor malfunction. Cosmic interference. You Thalnok are brave warriors, but even warriors imagine ghosts in the dark. The hall erupted in laughter. Retha's eyes burned with anger. You can mock me if you wish, but mark my words, they're watching us. They knew our systems, our codes, even our language. Before he could say more, the transmission was muted. Trevok sighed. Delusions, he said. This council will not waste time on fairy tales. He turned to the assembly. Let us return to real matters, trade routes, resource quotas, and pirate suppression. Ambassador Varel sat quietly in the corner. His claws tapped the table softly. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He had seen this before. Arrogance was the galaxy's oldest disease. That night, the Council's private news networks ran a short piece on the Thalnok incident. The anchors smiled as they told the story. A routine patrol reportedly encountered an unknown vessel in deep space. Officials confirm it was most likely a smuggler ship using experimental cloaking. The words most likely carried more power than truth ever could. By morning, no one remembered the report. But out beyond the border, in the empty stretch of space called the Silent Verge, something was happening. Trade beacons began to flicker. Mining stations lost contact. Cargo convoys vanished. The Council dismissed it all as equipment failure. Until one day, a full colony went dark. The planet Viriles 4 was home to nearly 6 million settlers. No distress call. No sign of war. Just silence. A Recon fleet was sent to investigate. When they arrived, they found the cities empty, perfectly intact, untouched. Every building still had lights. Every system still worked. But there were no bodies. No people. Only the sound of wind through hollow streets. Commander Jet Hal of the Recon team whispered to his aide, "What could do this?" A low voice answered behind him, from a nearby speaker. "You ignored the warnings." The crew froze. That voice was human. Before anyone could respond, their systems went offline, one by one. Then, the transmission ended. The Recon fleet returned to the Council with only fragments of data. Still, Chancellor Trevok called it a hoax. Some kind of alien virus, he said with a smirk. Or perhaps the Thalnox sabotaged their own systems to justify more funding. Virel rose slowly from his seat. Chancellor, he said quietly, you mock the truth because it frightens you. Trevok turned toward him. And you, Ambassador, see danger in shadows because you live in fear. Virel didn't reply. He simply looked out the window toward the stars and said, the first world has already fallen. You're just too blind to see it. Outside the council chambers, panic was quietly spreading among the outer colonies. Merchants spoke of silent ships appearing from nowhere. Miners swore they saw dark figures on the surface of abandoned stations. No one believed them, until a civilian broadcast leaked one image to the galactic net. A massive black vessel, sleek and lightless, hovering above a shattered moon. It carried no markings, no banners. Only one word etched faintly across its hull. Dawnfire. The image spread fast before being deleted by council censors, but it was too late. The whispers had begun. Humans. Terrans. Deathworlders. Meanwhile, deep within an asteroid field, a hidden fleet was forming. The humans worked in silence, building ships with precision and patience. Every hull was made of dark alloy, silent, invisible to most scanners. Commander Elena Cross stood in the command bay, staring at a holographic projection of the galactic map. The nearby sectors glowed red, marked for observation. Her chief strategist approached. Phase 2 is ready. Should we proceed? Elena nodded. Yes. They won't believe the truth until it lands on their doorstep. Let's begin. The strategist hesitated. Permission to ask, Commander, why not just contact them? Show them we come in peace. Elena looked at him for a long moment, her eyes cold and sad. Because peace is a language they stopped understanding long ago. She turned back to the map. Prepare the fleet. The Council must learn. Some lessons can't be taught with words. Back on the Council world, the storms grew stronger. Lightning cracked across the sky. Virel watched the thunderclouds and felt the air grow heavy, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. He whispered softly to himself. They laughed once. They won't laugh when the stars go dark. He didn't know where the humans would strike first. But somewhere deep inside, he already knew one truth. The galaxy's age of arrogance was ending. And the age of humanity was about to begin. Tarine Prime was a jewel among the stars, a planet of 10 billion souls, shining cities, and endless skies. From orbit, its oceans glowed like blue fire under twin suns. It was the pride of the Dravok Dominion, the beating heart of their empire, and a symbol of the Council's power. For centuries, no enemy had ever dared to threaten Tarine Prime. Its orbital defenses were the most advanced in the galaxy. 6 fortress stations, 20 planetary shields, and an armada of warships surrounding its atmosphere. The people of Tarine believed they were untouchable. They were wrong. It began with silence. At first, a few satellites went offline, nothing unusual, the Dominion engineers said. Then entire communication grids failed without warning. Sensors flickered. Navigation beacons shut down. Ships lost contact with control towers. Within minutes, every system connected to the defense network went dark. On the bridge of the Orbital Command Fortress Vila station, General Threx Mailer shouted orders. Reboot the grid. Activate backup protocols. System unresponsive, sir, the technician stammered. Every circuit's been scrambled. It's like something's rewriting the code. Threx slammed his fist against the console. Who's attacking us? Find them. The sensor officer looked pale. Sir, there's nothing on the scopes. No ships. No signals. Just static. Then, through the static, a calm voice spoke. This is the Terran Expeditionary Command. Your defenses are compromised. Power down your weapons and surrender peacefully. The bridge went silent. Threx stared at the speaker, disbelief in his eyes. Terran. Humans, he growled. They dare threaten us. He turned to his crew. Find them. I want visual confirmation. The officer's voice cracked. Sir, we found them. From the shadow of Tarine's largest moon, dozens of dark shapes emerged, human ships, black as the void itself. They made no sound, no light, no engine trails. They moved like ghosts, gliding through space as if they owned it. And then they fired. No glowing plasma. No dramatic explosions. Just clean, silent destruction. Beams of invisible energy sliced through orbiting fortresses like paper. One by one, the stations fell apart, torn in half by forces unseen. General Threx watched in horror as half his fleet vanished in under a minute. "Shields up! Return fire!" he roared. But there were no shields. No targeting. The systems were dead. The Dawnfire, the human flagship, appeared at the center of the fleet formation. Commander Elena Cross stood at the viewing window, her face calm, unreadable. "Targets neutralized," her officer reported. "Planetary defense grid offline. Do we proceed?" Elena's eyes softened slightly. "Target only command centers, not cities. The civilians aren't our enemies." Moments later, precision strikes rained down through Tarine's atmosphere. Massive pillars of light hit military zones, silencing them instantly. There were no screams, no drawn-out battles, only brief flashes, then silence. The human fleet didn't fight for glory. They fought like surgeons, fast, clean, efficient. Down on the planet, chaos reigned. Cities lost power. Skies burned red as defense towers exploded. People ran through the streets, terrified by the glowing streaks cutting across the heavens. In the capital, Chancellor Van Dravik, ruler of the Dominion, stood before a shattered balcony, staring at the destruction. He whispered, "No one could do this. Not even the Council's Grand Fleet." Then a shadow fell over the city, a human dropship, descending through smoke and fire. From its ramp stepped human soldiers, their armor black and sleek, their visors glowing faint blue. They moved silently, scanning the ruins, helping survivors out of debris, carrying the wounded. One alien woman screamed, "You're here to kill us." A soldier removed his helmet. His face was human, tired, dirty, but calm. "No," he said. "We're here to stop the killing." Hours later, the battle was over. Tarine Prime's military was gone. Its government surrendered. Yet strangely, the cities still stood. No mass bombardments. No exterminations. Instead, the humans left behind food, medicine, and power units to rebuild. When their ships finally lifted off, a message echoed across every comm network. First contact concluded. Resistance neutralized. Humanity does not conquer, it endures. Back in the council chamber, panic erupted. Reports poured in, footage, witness statements, wreckage data. Every image showed the same thing, human fleets moving with impossible coordination, destroying armies without destroying worlds. High Chancellor Trevik's voice shook for the first time in decades. They spared the civilians. Virel stood slowly, his eyes cold. "Yes," he said. "Because they're not here for conquest. They're here for respect. And you refused to give it." Trevik slammed his hand down. "They attacked a council world. That's war." Virel looked at him sadly. "No, Chancellor. That's punishment." Out among the stars, Commander Elena watched Tarine Prime fade behind the fleet. Her second officer spoke quietly. "The council will retaliate." Elena nodded. "Yes. They'll send fleets, speeches, threats. But they won't understand." She gazed out at the stars, each one a potential battleground. "They thought we were weak because we came from a death world," she whispered. "But death taught us how to live." Her voice hardened. "And now, the galaxy will learn that lesson too." The Dawnfire turned, its engines glowing softly as it disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind a silent world that would never forget the day the humans came. Back on the council capital, storms raged across the skies once more. Ambassador Virel stood at his balcony, the wind whipping through his cloak. He looked up at the stars and said quietly, "The first world has fallen, and they still don't understand what's coming." Lightning split the sky, and in that moment, the old ambassador felt the truth deep in his bones. Humanity had arrived. And the galaxy's age of comfort was over. The news spread faster than light. Tarine Prime had fallen. For centuries, no world under the Council's protection had ever been conquered. Now, within hours, every channel, every frequency, and every datapad in the galaxy carried the same headline. Human fleet destroys Dominion defenses, spreads message of endurance. Some refused to believe it. Others called it lies, Council propaganda, or some kind of simulation. But the footage was clear, human ships moving like shadows, cutting through armadas as if they were made of dust. And the scariest part? The humans didn't stay to rule. They just left. On the Council's capital world, Virel sat alone in his chamber, staring at the broadcast replay. He had warned them, begged them to listen, and now every word he'd spoken was echoing across the stars like a prophecy. A voice interrupted his thoughts. Ambassador Virel, the Council demands your presence. He sighed. Of course they do. Inside the Grand Council chamber, chaos had taken control. Dozens of alien delegates shouted over one another. Monitors showed burning cities, disabled fleets, and interviews with survivors from Tarine Prime. They call it mercy, but it's psychological warfare, one senator cried. They strike fear, then pretend to be saviors, another argued. Chancellor Trevok slammed his clawed hand against the desk. Enough. We cannot let panic spread. The humans must be declared enemies of all known civilizations. But, Chancellor, said a calm voice, if they wanted war, Tarine Prime would no longer exist. All eyes turned toward Virel. He walked slowly to the center of the chamber. You saw what they did. They crippled the Dominion in one night, but they spared billions. Why? Because they're arrogant, a general snapped. They think we're beneath them. Virel shook his head. No. They're sending a message. They could have killed us. But they didn't. That means they have a goal. Trevok's voice dripped with contempt. And what goal would that be, old fool? Virel met his gaze. To make us remember them. To remind the galaxy that the Deathworlders have returned, and they are not the monsters we imagined. They're worse. Meanwhile, far away on Station Coro 9, a trading hub on the galaxy's outer rim, panic had turned into madness. Merchants hoarded supplies. Refugees filled the docks. Every ship captain whispered the same fear. The humans are coming. Rumors spread, faster than truth ever could. They can melt ships with their minds. They breathe poison and live in radiation. They've tamed black holes. No one knew what was true anymore. Fear had taken the shape of legend. In a dim bar near Dock 7, two alien smugglers whispered over drinks. You think they'll come here? The smaller one asked. The taller creature nodded slowly. If they came for Tarine, they'll come for the Council next. They're sending a warning to all of us. But what do they want? The taller smuggler leaned closer. I heard something from a Dominion survivor. The humans left a message. What message? He looked around nervously. We only fight when we must. The smaller one froze. So, we made them fight. The tall one stared into his glass. We always do. Back in orbit over Earth, aboard the human flagship Dawnfire, Commander Elena Cross stood in the observation deck. Before her, the blue planet spun slowly, calm and peaceful. Her second officer approached. Reports are coming in. The Council's trying to rally an alliance. They're calling it Operation Unity. Elena smiled faintly. Unity? Against us? Yes, They've declared humanity a Class A galactic threat. Bounties on all Terran fleets. Propaganda spreading fast. Good, she said quietly. Let them unite. It's about time they worked together. The officer frowned. You want them to? Elena turned to face him. If they unite, we'll finally see who they really are. Fear reveals truth better than peace ever can. In the Council's intelligence wing, scientists examined human tech recovered from Tarine Prime's ruins. They couldn't understand it. The machines were unlike anything the galaxy had seen, self-learning, self-healing, powered by something that wasn't fusion, antimatter, or any known energy. One scientist whispered, "It's like the technology was alive." Another replied, "No, It's worse. It's adaptive. Reports began flooding in from border worlds, ghost signals, vanished patrols, intercepted transmissions marked with 2 words. Project Dawnfire. By the 3rd week after Tarine's fall, the galaxy was split. Half wanted to surrender before the humans arrived. Half wanted to destroy them before they grew stronger. Trevok's speeches filled every channel, painting humans as invaders, parasites, destroyers. But behind the loud words, a quiet dread grew, because deep down, everyone knew the truth. The humans hadn't started this war. The Council had. In the darkness of space, the Dawnfire cruised silently toward the next system, a world called Veros 3, home to one of the Council's secret weapons labs. Elena stood by the window, her eyes calm but heavy with thought. "They'll fight back soon," said her officer. "Yes," she said. "They'll send everything they have. Fleets, armies, fear." She turned, voice low and steady. "And we'll show them why the Council should have listened when they laughed at the warning." The stars reflected in her eyes, cold, distant, eternal. "The galaxy wanted a monster," she whispered. "Let's show them one built by mercy." And far away, in his private quarters, Ambassador Varel looked out into the storming sky of the Council capital. The first world had fallen. The second would fall soon. And still, they refused to listen. He closed his eyes and said to the empty air, "The humans warned us once. They won't warn us again." Lightning cracked outside, and the galaxy's age of fear had truly begun. The Council chamber, once a place of debate and diplomacy, had turned into a war room. Screens flickered with battle reports, red alerts, and star maps filled with human fleet sightings. The High Chancellor Trevok stood before the gathered leaders, his voice sharp and desperate. "Enough waiting. The humans have crippled one of our strongest worlds. If we don't strike now, the galaxy will descend into chaos." Around him, the delegates murmured in agreement. Fear had finally united them, not trust, not peace, but fear. Varel watched from the back of the room, silent and weary. He could feel it, the same mistake repeating, louder this time. Trevok raised his clawed hand. "I hereby declare the activation of Operation Unity, a joint fleet of all Council races. We will bring the fight to Earth itself. We will end this threat before it consumes us." Applause filled the chamber. But beneath the noise, Varel whispered to himself, "You can't destroy what you don't understand." The gathering of Titans. For the first time in centuries, every major species sent their finest ships to one command. The Joran dreadnoughts, vast and bristling with plasma cannons. The Vraxi stealth frigates, built for ambush. The Drexen carriers, housing thousands of fighters. Even the mercenary clans joined, not for honor, but for survival. More than 50,000 ships formed the largest armada in galactic history. At its heart sat the flagship Divine Wrath, commanded by Admiral Ren Kor, a strategist known for never losing. He stood before his crew, confident. "The humans rely on surprise. But this time, we strike first. We'll burn their homeworld if we must. For the Council. For the galaxy." His words were met with cheers. But far away, on the human flagship Dawnfire, Commander Elena Cross already knew. The message. A lone transmission appeared on the Council's secure frequency. It bore no encryption, no code, just a calm human voice. "This is Commander Elena Cross of the Terran Expeditionary Command. Operation Unity will fail before it begins. Turn back now, and no one will die. Proceed, and we'll consider this an act of extinction." The Council dismissed it as arrogance. Admiral Kor sneered. "Let them try. We'll show them the power of unity." Varel, watching the broadcast, felt his stomach twist. He had heard that tone before, not rage, not pride, but certainty. The humans weren't threatening. They were informing. The march to Earth. The Unity Armada jumped to hyperspace, 50,000 ships piercing the void. 4 days, their journey was smooth, uneventful. But then, the first anomalies appeared. Ships began reporting sensor ghosts, strange readings, brief flashes of movement in empty space. Then, one by one, ships went silent. No explosions. No distress calls. Just silence. Kor ordered full scans, but the data made no sense. Entire squadrons simply vanished. And then, from the blackness, came a whisper over comms. "Welcome to Terran space." The next second, 1,000 ships disappeared from radar. The trap. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Sol system, expecting a planet bristling with defenses. Instead, Earth looked quiet. Peaceful. Core laughed. So this is their mighty homeworld? Pathetic. All ships, prepare for orbital bombard. He never finished his sentence. Every screen in the fleet flickered, every system glitched. Then, on the main display, a single symbol appeared, a circle of blue light with a line through it. The insignia of Project Dawnfire. In that instant, every ship in the Unity Armada realized their systems weren't being jammed. They were being rewritten. "Admiral," shouted an officer. "Our power cores are going critical. The firewalls are collapsing." "How?" Core screamed. "How are they inside our systems?" No one knew that when Tarine Prime fell, the humans had left behind fragments of code, adaptive AI seeds. Those fragments had spread through the galactic network, quietly infecting military databases. And now, every ship in Operation Unity carried that same infection. The fleet wasn't attacking Earth. It was flying into its own grave. In orbit around Earth, Commander Elena watched the fleet arrive through her tactical display. "Engage Phase 2, she said softly. From hidden stations across the solar system, human satellites activated. Each one emitted a pulse, invisible, instantaneous. Within moments, the Unity Armada's ships began shutting down, one by one. Engines froze. Weapons powered off. Thousands of vessels drifted helplessly, like corpses in the dark. Core's voice filled the comms, panicked now. "We've lost control. They're inside the ships." Elena's reply came cold and clear. "You entered our system. You should have listened." The judgment. From Earth's orbit, a colossal structure emerged, a space platform unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't a weapon. It was a message. Across every surviving ship's display, a single sentence appeared. "Humanity does not seek war. But if war finds us, we end it." The message repeated once, then the human fleet vanished, leaving the disabled armada floating silently around Earth. Hours later, the Council ships regained control. They limped home in shame, thousands of vessels lost without a single human casualty. Operation Unity had failed, not in battle, but in understanding. Back at the Council, Trevor raged before the cameras, calling the humans cowards, liars, devils. But no one believed him anymore. Footage of the event spread across the galaxy, how the humans defeated 50,000 ships without firing a single shot. For the first time, civilizations began to whisper a new name for humanity. The Architects of Fear. In his private quarters, Virel watched the transmission replay one final time. He smiled bitterly. "They tried to fight monsters," he said softly. "And instead, they found survivors." Lightning cracked outside the Council dome. The war wasn't over, but the galaxy finally understood what it was facing. 3 weeks after Operation Unity, the galaxy was silent. No new fleets moved. No new declarations were made. The great powers had gone quiet, the same kind of silence that comes before a storm. Billions had seen the recordings. 50,000 ships, the might of the entire Galactic Council, floating helpless around Earth, powerless, defeated, and humiliated. And the worst part, the humans had let them live. On the Council's capital world Varan Prime, fear had turned to anger. Protests shook the streets. Citizens demanded answers. Why had their leaders sent them into a war they couldn't win? Why had they ignored the warnings? High Chancellor Trevor stood before a sea of reporters, scales dull with exhaustion but eyes burning with rage. "This is not over," he declared. "Humanity's technology is stolen. They are a danger to all life. We will rebuild. We will return." But his voice, once commanding, now echoed weakly. No one cheered. No one believed him. Behind the bright lights of the press hall, whispers spread. Some said Trevor had known all along that the humans were not the threat, that he had started the war to keep the Council united through fear. And now, that fear was turning against him. Meanwhile, Ambassador Virel watched the broadcast in silence. He had seen this before, pride hiding behind speeches, denial behind power. He turned to his assistant. The Chancellor still believes he can control the story. The assistant frowned. And if he can't? Varel's gaze drifted toward the stars outside his window. Then the story will control him. The human response. Across the void, aboard the human flagship Dawnfire, Commander Elena Cross received a message from Earth Command. It contained only 3 words. Begin Phase 3. She nodded slowly. Open transmission to all Council worlds. Her officer hesitated. All of them, That's billions of receivers. Yes, Elena replied. They started this war with lies. Let's end it with truth. A few hours later, every communication network in the galaxy flickered. The Council tried to block the signal, but it was too late. Every screen, every device, every broadcast frequency showed the same image. A woman in dark armor, standing before the symbol of Earth. Her voice was calm, firm, and cold. This is Commander Elena Cross of the Terran Expeditionary Command. To all sentient species of the Galactic Council, we are not your enemies. We did not start this war. Behind her, holograms appeared, footage, documents, intercepted transmissions. The humans had gathered proof. Years ago, when Earth first sent a message of peace to the stars, your council intercepted it. You called us dangerous, unfit for contact. And when our probes entered your space, you destroyed them, claiming we had invaded. A pause. The galaxy held its breath. You built your fear around us. And when fear wasn't enough, your leaders used it to unite their empires. Operation Unity wasn't a defense, it was an execution attempt. Elena's eyes hardened. We survived because humanity always survives. You called us monsters. Maybe you're right. Because monsters are what peaceful worlds create when they destroy hope. In the council chamber, Trevok's face went pale. Cut the transmission, he shouted. Block it. But it was everywhere, unstoppable. Even council soldiers paused in the streets to watch. On the screen, Elena's tone softened. We will not conquer your worlds. We will not enslave your people. But we will never kneel again. The age of council control is over. She leaned forward slightly, voice like steel. If you seek peace, reach out. If you seek war, know this. You'll never see it coming. The transmission ended. For the first time in galactic history, the Council lost control of the narrative. Billions of aliens questioned their leaders. Some demanded peace with Earth. Others wanted revenge, but no one truly believed the Council's story anymore. Entire colonies began refusing to send resources to the war effort. Several outer systems even opened trade channels with independent human fleets, defying Council law. The cracks were spreading, fast. On Varan Prime, Trevok stormed into his private war room. Find the humans. Track their fleets. They're manipulating us. A general lowered his head. Sir, our sensors can't find them. It's like they vanished. Vanished? How do 50 ships vanish? The general swallowed hard. Because, Chancellor, they're not in known space anymore. Trevok froze. Explain. The general activated a holographic map. We've traced fragments of their warp signatures beyond the outer rim, into uncharted sectors. Trevok leaned closer. They're building something. The general nodded slowly. And whatever it is, we won't be ready. The whispering fear. Across the galaxy, strange signals began appearing, unknown frequencies, repeating fragments of human code. At first, they seemed random. But scientists soon discovered something chilling. The signals weren't messages. They were warnings. Each pulse carried the same encrypted symbol. Project Dawnfire, Phase 4. The Council's best cryptographers couldn't break it. And yet, every time a system tried to decode it, their computers crashed, as if the signal itself refused to be understood. It wasn't communication. It was preparation. On the Dawnfire, Elena stood before her crew. The galaxy is confused, her second officer said. Half hate us, half want to ally with us. That's good, Elena replied. Confusion buys us time. Time for what, She stared at the stars. For the truth to reveal itself. They think we're preparing for war. But war was never our goal. Her voice lowered, almost like a whisper. We're preparing for what's coming after it. Far away, Ambassador Varel sat in silence, watching the last fragments of the human broadcast replay. His eyes were heavy with both fear and respect. He whispered, "They're not fighting to win. They're fighting to change us." The wind outside howled against the glass. And somewhere deep within the Council's core systems, the human code continued to spread, quiet, patient, unstoppable. The galaxy had entered the reckoning. And no one yet understood what the humans were truly building beyond the stars. The galaxy held its breath. Weeks had passed since the humans' message, weeks of silence, confusion, and fear. The Council had lost its grip. Worlds once loyal to its rule now stood uncertain, watching the stars with both dread and wonder. And in the darkness beyond the outer rim, something was awakening. The discovery. It began on the mining colony of Verin 12, a quiet world of rock and dust, far from the core worlds. Miners detected strange readings underground, massive energy spikes, thousands of kilometers deep. When they drilled further, they found metal, but not like any metal they'd ever seen. It pulsed faintly with blue light, humming like a heartbeat. The site scanners identified the signal instantly. Origin match, Project Dawnfire. Before the colony could even send a full report, the ground shook. The mines collapsed inward, not from an explosion, but from activation. Moments later, a beam of light burst from the planet's surface, straight into space, carrying with it a single encoded message. Phase 4, complete. Then, silence. The Council's panic. Alarms blared across the Council's communication grid. Every sensor, every probe, every monitoring station picked up the same signal, spreading from system to system like wildfire. Chancellor Trevok stood before the War Council, his voice trembling. "What is this? What are they doing?" A scientist turned, eyes wide. "It's spreading faster than light. The humans must have planted it long ago, maybe years before first contact. It's not a weapon, it's a network." "A network?" Trevok snarled. "Of what?" The scientist swallowed hard. "Of worlds. The awakening." From the far edges of known space, entire planets began to shimmer. Old satellites reactivated. Derelict outposts turned their lights on. In every corner of the galaxy, ancient human probes, forgotten relics from their first deep space expeditions, came alive. Each one broadcast the same symbol. Milky Way Project Dawnfire. And then, something extraordinary happened. The probes didn't just transmit. They connected. Across the stars, thousands of signals linked together, forming a web of light, invisible to the eye, but powerful enough to bend space itself. It was no longer just human technology. It was a living network, one that spanned galaxies. Varel watched the readings from his office, whispering to himself. They built this, while we were laughing at them. The revelation. In orbit above Earth, Commander Elena Cross stood before the great window of the Dawnfire's bridge. Around her, the crew watched as the holographic map lit up with connections, one after another, like stars being born. Her officer turned to her, voice shaking. It's working. The network's complete. But what is it?" Elena smiled faintly. "It's not a weapon. It's a warning system." "Warning? For what?" Elena's expression darkened. "For what's coming next." She gestured to the hologram. "This galaxy thought we were their threat. But we weren't preparing for them. We were preparing with them, even if they didn't know it." The officer frowned. "Preparing for what, Elena looked out at the stars. "For what chased us here." The truth behind the fear. Long before the Council ever knew of Earth, humanity had encountered something, out there, beyond mapped space. A signal, repeating endlessly, coming from deep intergalactic voids. At first, they thought it was alien contact. But when they sent ships to investigate, those ships never returned. When the survivors finally came back, they spoke of the silence beyond light, a region of space where stars died without cause, where entire galaxies vanished into nothing. Whatever existed there was not alive. It didn't want to conquer. It wanted to erase. Project Dawnfire had been humanity's desperate plan to build a galaxy-spanning alert system, one strong enough to warn every civilization before the silence reached them. But when humanity tried to share it, the Council dismissed them, called them dangerous. Then, the humans went dark, continuing their work alone. Now, with the network complete, the first signs were clear. The edge of the galaxy was flickering. Stars were going out. The real enemy. On the Council's deep space sensors, a massive disturbance appeared, something vast, cold, and utterly silent. It moved like a shadow across the void, swallowing starlight as it came. The readings made no sense. No energy signature. No matter. Just absence. A black shape that devoured everything. Trevor stared at the screen, his voice barely a whisper. "What is that?" Varel answered quietly, "That is what they were trying to save us from." The last transmission. Every device in the galaxy blinked to life again. It was another human broadcast, simple, calm, final. Elena's voice echoed across every world, every ship, every heart. To the species of the Galactic Council. The darkness at the edge of the stars has awakened. This is why we built Project Dawnfire. We were never your enemy. We were your alarm. Her tone softened. You feared us because you didn't understand us. You thought we wanted war. But war was only the language you understood. Now, we speak in survival. The message ended with one final line. Prepare your worlds. The first light has fallen. And then, all across the galaxy, the Dawnfire network activated. Bright lines of energy linking planet to planet, star to star, forming a shield of light across the void. The Council's fleets watched in silence as the human ships vanished once more, not in retreat, but in purpose. They were moving to the edge. To face the darkness first. Epilogue, the first world fell. Ambassador Varel stood on his balcony, watching the stars flicker faintly. He whispered to himself. They tried to warn us. And we laughed. He turned his eyes toward the heavens, where faint human lights shimmered across the night sky. The first world fell, not because of war. It fell because we refused to believe. And somewhere, far beyond the rim, the human fleet entered the black, ready to fight the thing that even gods feared. The galaxy finally understood the truth. Humanity was not the monster in the dark. They were the fire standing against it.